All right, we are going to talk about getting your story in the news. We're going to talk about how to use AI to do that. And I've got Mickie Kennedy from eReleases on, and he's going to tell us a lot. Mickie, say hi.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about, should you use AI for a press release, how to create amazing ChatGPT prompts, his step-by-step system, what AI is not good for in press releases, good quotes versus bad quotes, and the power of quotes in press releases, best AI software for writing those, the best ChatGPT prompts, as I mentioned, how eReleases keeps their price low. It's pretty cool. And how they got over 150 pickups for one press release, as well as the power of video case stories in press releases. All this on the Garlic Marketing Show. But of course, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best things to do is put your customer stories into press releases. If you want to create amazing customer stories, collect them, create amazing videos, we can help you get started. Or you can go pick up the book, Video Testimonials That Land the Big Fish. If you want help with it, just go to videocasestory.com/get started. All right, let's get started. Everyone knows about press releases, but what's going on with AI now, and how are you using it? Is it a valuable thing to be pumping out a ton of press releases and using AI?
I don't see a problem using AI for press releases. You got to realize that press releases used to help with SEO years ago. Now the goal with a press release is get earned media, which is an original article written by the journalist. And we certainly don't want that written by AI, but the actual press release doesn't really count for you or against you for SEO purposes. It's considered duplicate content and tagged as a press release. So I don't see a problem with that being AI generated if it helps you get the press release written. There's a lot of people that are not as comfortable at writing a press release as I am. And while we offer writing services, I know that for some people, it just is something they feel more empowered if they could just develop the release themselves. And I feel like if you coach AI, you can get a really good press release written. And by coaching, what I mean is you have to know what the press release is going to be about. And so when you start the first paragraph, you have to really have in mind what the first sentence pretty much is. You could have it perfect it, but know what that first paragraph is about and what that second paragraph is about. And I find if you coach it paragraph by paragraph, you can get a very well-written press release and spend a little more time focusing on a really great headline. I do find that AI is not the best at coming up with the really concise, amazing headlines, but you could play with it and see. If anything, you can just say, give me 10 headline options for this press release we've just written, and just see if it helps you come up with something that you can put a little pizzazz on. I find that AI is not the best with quotes. I find that a really amazing quote is a way for your press release to stand out. You have to remember, if you have a journalist looking at two stories of equal newsworthiness and one has an amazing quote, they're going to gravitate to that because they can really build the article around that quote. And by what I mean when I say amazing quote is something that is said in a way that maybe it's your artistry or the power of what was written or how concise it was. There's a certain magical quality if the journalist was just to paraphrase it and take it out of your words, there would be a loss. And if you can maintain that, you can ensure that you will not be stripped by the editor's pen when it comes to being sent up to the managing editor who looks through and crosses things out. And you definitely don't want that to happen with your company mention.
Wow, and there's lots to unpack there. So I want to talk about the prompts and what software you're using, but I want to talk about the quotes. Can you give me an example or two of a great quote that you've seen land some earned media?
I don't have an amazing quote offhand, but I can give you an idea for it. A lot of quotes that we see are really written to be very safe. You have a new service, and we believe this service is going to be transformative for our customers and our patients, says CEO Jack Abrams of some certain hospital. And I would have something that would just be have a little more punch to it. Not only have we transformed a building, but we've also transforming how patients are cared for in the Baltimore County, Maryland area. It's more imagistic, and it's a little bit more powerful. And I think that those are the types of things that you should strive for: active verbs, power, punch, imagery, if you can, and just say something that's just really profound or concise or whatever the magic is to it. You want to make sure that quote really stands out.
Nice. And so Now, do you do any testing on those quotes, or do you multiple press releases? How do you figure out? I like testing.
Right. And it's hard to A/B split test a press release, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think that you really have to go with your gut as to whether you feel like this quote is good enough. If you have a couple of options and you're torn in different directions, ask a colleague, ask someone that you trust their opinion, and get their perspective on it. At the end of the day, it's just you have to test it and try it and see what works. There isn't the ability to split test on the wire when you send out a release, but you certainly can see what works based on prior experience, as well as look at articles that are in your industry and what are the types of quotes that are getting included. You might find that they're really safe quotes, which you writing one really powerful one, you might be more likely to get an article picked up or written about because of that quote.
Yeah, true. That'd be, yeah, getting something a little to stand out and different. Now, with AI, you're going to speed up, you're going to speed everything up, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But what's your favorite AI software for writing press releases?
I use ChatGPT. I think I'm using the 4.0 version, the paid version. I find it's really good at taking small, direct information and giving you like 4 to 8 sentences around it. I find that if you just turn a press release, a ChatGPT, if you just turn it loose on a press release and just say, write a press release about me opening a store and such, it comes up with just a very safe written release, but it's not as punchy as it could be. You might want to just say opening paragraph, focus on we're opening in this area. Second paragraph, let's work on a quote together and get that in there, and then just feed it paragraph by paragraph what you're looking for. And I think you have a much better success rate than just putting out 2 or 3 sentences and expecting a whole 600 word press release as a result.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because I've seen that when you're trying to let ChatGPT do everything, it really doesn't do anything really that well. But I love that specificity on the prompts. So you said opening paragraph would be your headline, and then second would be a quote, and work together on a quote. What are some of your favorite prompts for ChatGPT in writing a press release?
I think some of my favorite prompts are brainstorming. When I'm looking for ideas for a press release, say, give me 20 good marketing press release ideas for a press release company, and seeing what it comes up with. And I might take 2 or 3 of those ideas and brainstorm even more, fleshing those out into several options and things like that. And I find it's really good at what I call brainstorming and playing around and having fun and just being open and loose. But I will often say, give me, rather than 2 or 3 ideas, give me 10 or 20. And I am the one who likes to pick through and find what I feel are like the little diamonds and get those on the page, and also spread those out and see if there's something, if you go deeper, like on a deeper dive on a subject.
And I love this idea because it really helps you to brainstorm. And I think that's one of the best ways to use ChatGPT. And I think that's great advice, like number of prompts. But so now we've got this powerful tool, and I'm going to go write this press release. You guys do press releases, eReleases. We can go, where's the best place to sign up and send out for a press release, by the way, while we're here?
So I'm going to recommend eReleases. We send out releases via email. That's how we started. And over time, the Newswire, PR Newswire reached out to us. They're the oldest and largest Newswire press releases. And they said we should send through them. At the time, we were charging just a couple $100. And I just didn't see how it was going to work, because they were charging like $1,500 to move a 600 word press release nationally. And surprisingly, they didn't run away. They wanted to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And in talking with them, I realized they have an editorial staff that's very inactive overnight. They have to be there in case there's a recall, or they have to get news to Asia, or lots of different scenarios in which they want an overnight news to be able to go out. But that editorial team isn't really doing much. They're waiting for that release that rarely comes. I said, let's schedule all of our releases at eReleases next business day by default. and have your overnight editorial team set them up so it doesn't cost you additional labor. And so we approached it to try to find a win in which we could keep the price really low and also provide as much value as possible. So anybody who uses eReleases now gets a national distribution over PR Newswire, and it's at least half and many times 2/3 cheaper than going directly to the wire yourself.
That's awesome. And press release, what are some of the best things that press releases can do for you right now that you're seeing work? You talked about earned media. What kind of earned media are you getting through?
Right. So we're getting all different types. We get a lot of industry trade publications, magazines, websites. We get newspapers. We get radio and TV. You name it, we get it. Everything from the big Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all the way down to little small dailies and, publications like that. During the pandemic, we did a free press release for the Dining Bond Initiative, which was set up for a very short period to help businesses, specifically restaurants that were closed during the pandemic. And they just sent out one release and got over 150 media pickups. We quit counting after that because there was just so many small newspapers nationwide that picked it up. And it also got a little bit of international exposure as well. And it got all the big publications, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. But like I said, a lot of dailies picked it up. And I think it was positive news at a time that there was a lot of uncertainty and a negative sentiment in the news. So I think journalists were attracted to here was something positive. And even more importantly, we were all sent home for a couple of weeks to flatten the curve. And we felt like we couldn't do anything. And here was something that you could support, $40 to your favorite local restaurant and make sure that the money went directly to them. And they were able to use that to keep the electricity running, perhaps pay some staff and just continue at a time where things looked uncertain, especially for the restaurant industry.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you talk about local media. How important, how good is local media, and how would you combine this AI strategy to get local media? Would you do multiple press releases? Would you do targeted? Tell me about that.
So when it comes to local media, I'm a little bit different. I'm like, don't spend your money using a service like eReleases. It's overkill. We're really good for national distribution. You can target regionally, but I think that for local media, that is something that you should try to do yourself. And before anybody goes, oh, that sounds very difficult, just break it down. There's probably less than 10 people in your market who would write or cover you. If you're lucky enough to still have a daily paper, find out who covers your industry there, identify that person, and get their email address. If you can't find it online, call and ask. They're members of the community. They're not celebrities. They are people who are hunting for stories, and they are accessible. And you can just call and say, hey, I've got a story idea. I'd love to get so-and-so's email address. They'll either give it to you or forward you to that person's phone, and you can leave a message or talk to them if you're lucky enough to get them. And I just ask for their email address. I find that if you're persistent, you will get it. It's not a magic. Build your own Rolodex. If you're lucky enough to have a business magazine or a business newspaper, find out who covers your industry there. TV and radio, if there's certain segments that occasionally spotlight businesses, find out who the producer or booker of that segment is. Again, just call and ask and tell them you'd like to pitch. Now, when it comes to pitching these people, you're not needing to send a whole press release. If you have one, that's great. But I feel like if you just have a really good idea and an amazing quote, you can just send that. So anywhere from 3 to 6 sentences is often sufficient for a pitch. If you see something trending in your industry and you want to be an example of that locally, you can just do that. Just say, hey, I've seen in my industry, there's a lot of news about everybody going green and being more environmentally friendly. And as a local dry cleaner, I'd love to share what we're doing, specifically this, and then put an amazing quote that they can build that story around, already envisioning what an article might look like, and just send it to them. And that's all you need to do. You don't want to inundate people. So you want to send it on a regular basis, but not, too often. I think that for a local business, monthly or every other month is a good metric to strive for. If you're looking for a minimum, I would say at least quarterly, because you really don't stay on their radar if you're doing less than quarterly. And what you'll find is after a year or two of reaching out to them, they will start to plug you into stories without you even sending a pitch. They will know, hey, this is the local dry cleaner. He keeps bugging me. Haven't written an article, but today I'm working on an article about something and I need to plug in a local business. And I just thought of them. And why would I think of them? Because they've been actively reaching out to me and pitching me ideas. It's one of the reasons that if you read your local paper, you'll often see the same businesses again and again in the newspaper. And it's because they've got a relationship with that business, and that business is reaching out to them and it's just top of mind when they're working on a story and looking for someone to put in there. And you'd be amazed at the types of mentions you could be plugged into. It could be like, do you have charitable outreach at the company, or someone at the company has dealt with an obstacle or a health issue in the past and how that affected the business. All different ways in which you could actually be put into a story without it necessarily being so obvious within your industry.
That's so smart, and it's great. And it's generous of you to say, hey, you don't need to use eReleases, but you are in business. So right now, if someone was going to go, hey, I want to, let's say a marketing agency wanted to grow their business using press releases, what type of strategy would you implement on, so that, because obviously you said it at regular cadence, putting it out there, there's people spending tens, 20s, $30,000 on ads. Where would press releases fall in? How would you get into a cadence with it?
So I think the first thing you're going to do is try to build out what a PR campaign would look like. And generally, if you're going to try PR, you want to do a proper campaign. So we're talking like 6 to 8 releases. And I have a whole video masterclass on brainstorming ideas for a PR campaign based on press releases that work for my clients. And that's at eReleases.com/plan, PLAN. It's completely free. It's about an hour video masterclass, and it goes through the types of meaningful releases that do get media pickup. Those might be focusing on your story. There's a reason that everybody that appears on Shark Tank shares their story of how they built the business. It could be like an obstacle or vulnerability, a health crisis that they just wanted to build this product or service as a result of it. Or it could just be a quirky, fun story where they were just bored at their law practice and just, felt like, I want to send potatoes to people and through the mail. There's lots of little things like that, but all of these share a human interest element. And that's where I like people to start with one of the ideas of, what's your story? What is your path? How did you get here? Other things that could sometimes be used is, who's your hero or who's your enemy? We had a local carpet company in New Jersey that had done 5 releases with us and no media pickup. And we were brainstorming, and they told me that their biggest enemy was the big box home improvement stores. And I expected to be like, oh, Dave across the road with his little carpet company, but it wasn't. So I said, I like this. Let's do a David versus Goliath approach, and how you have to market against this billion-dollar company and the types of things that you see that are bad for the industry as a result of companies like that. And we did that, and it got picked up in over 10 floor trade publications. And that was a huge pickup for them. And then we continued to milk marketing, because we found that a lot of people really like this marketing aspect of this local carpet company sharing what they're doing and peeling back the curtains, and people started sharing what they were doing. And these people aren't really competitors. They're just all small carpet companies, and they're all trying to figure this out. And it really brought them together. And we did a lot of releases. They were offered a marketing column in a floor trade publication. They got their local newspaper picked them up, as well as New Jersey Magazine. And the smart thing that they did is they put all of their clippings at the end of a year. They had about 30 clippings into a book, and they printed them out. And whenever they went and gave a quote to someone, they would say, we may not come in the cheapest, but we've been recognized nationally by Floor Trade Weekly, this publication. Here we are in the local newspaper. Here we are in New Jersey Magazine. And as a result, they started converting around 17% more of those at-home quotes, where the only difference they had was introducing this brag book, they called it. And that's what you can do when you get media pickup. In their case, they were getting predominantly picked up by floor trade publications. Their potential customers don't read that, but it is a huge authority signal to people. So having those clips were very instrumental in building this brag book and getting homeowners to see, yeah, we might save $300 going here, but I would rather work with the people who've been in, national magazines in their industry and have been recognized again and again. And I think that's a very human experience that we have. We want to make the right decision. And when it comes to just saving a few dollars, we'll often go with someone that we feel is more experienced and has more authority and credibility. And that's what getting earned media does. It gives you that third-party corroboration or social proof that a journalist chose you and wrote about you.
That's amazing. Amazing. I love the story aspect of it. A video case story, we're creating obviously stories, and there's amazing stories, right? We all have amazing stories. You got to, instead of just going, hey, this business is here, tell the story. And then it makes a journalist's job so much easier, doesn't it?
It does. And you have to realize that journalists themselves are storytellers. If you send a press release, and we get these every day of a product launch, and it's just, here's the product and here's a list of features, it's hard for journalists to build a story around that. But if you were to take a use case study and say, here's a product, here's its features, here's a client who had this problem, this is what happened as they used our product, and here's an amazing quote by them talking about how this saved them 27% over what they were previously using. That really can build out a story and helps a journalist in their path to take a press release and turn it into an article. At the end of the day, journalists are gatekeepers, and their biggest asset is their audience. And they have to determine, is this interesting or fascinating enough that I want to share it with my audience? And so anything that you can do to provide elements of a story is going to give you an edge when it comes to, yeah, I think my readers would be interested in hearing this story, and me building that out.
Love it. That's fantastic. And we work with client stories, and this is a great way to distribute your success stories, isn't it? If you have a great success story with a client, is through a press release.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And now how to use AI to make that story even better. And if you got a great story, then you automatically have some quotes in there. That's fantastic. So we go to eReleases.com. You've got several courses on there, the PR strategy, a few different things going on, lots of case studies featured on Shark Tank, when traffic went up 800%. And where's the best place to follow you, Sir Mickie?
Okay, so LinkedIn is the best place. All my social media is on the lower right of eReleases.com. And feel free to reach out to my staff through chat, email, or a phone call. We don't have any salespeople, or there's no commissions or quotas. And we're pretty good about helping people, especially walking them through their first release and their first PR campaign.
I love it. We'll put a link to all that in the show notes. Mickie, thank you so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show. This has been fantastic and super informative.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for taking Mickie and I on your journey. This has been Iron Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.